Hello and welcome to another great episode of the Gonzo Experience. I am David Gonzo Mamano, bringing you a brand new episode every Wednesday morning. Today, I have on the show a great guest that is talking about something near and dear to my heart. It's about the people within your organization, we the people, and which the word "we" is going to be very important, which you're going to understand in a second. But he is a workplace culture guy. Probably my favorite topic. Always love empowering and engaging the team, so that they just want to speed to work and stay forever and put their fingerprint on their role over there. So Kyle McDowell, welcome to the Gonzo Experience.
Hey, Dave, great to see you. It's my pleasure to be here.
So happy to have you here. Our energy is great because we both love this topic so much. You know, I've written a book called "Make Love in the Workplace." It came out many years ago. Don't know if I could have that title today, but it was all about workplace culture, folks. It definitely was rated G. And one of my TEDx talk was of the same name, "Make Love in the Workplace." So when I had my magazine, that was my number one priority, is to keep the team happy and engaged. And I had a lot of strategies and tactics around that. But you're a culture guy at heart. Would love to hear a little bit more about your journey. I know you worked with some big companies like CBS, Bank of America, et cetera. Want to know like what sparked your interest along this journey to be such a great culture guy, believer and supporter of the people within the organization. And tell us what you're doing today. And you do have a brand new book that just came out from Scribe, which we definitely want to dig into that as well. And the book is called "Begin with We," and that's the we. So, but tell us the whole story and how you're going to help us.
Yeah, you bet, Dave. You already stole a little bit of thunder with two words that you introed with, and that's empower and engage, two just very, very important words in leadership. But I am fortunate enough to share that I'm a 29 year veteran of corporate America. I began my journey at the ripe age of 18, right out of high school. As a matter of fact, I applied for a role with a regional bank. I was still 17, and here in Florida, the legal working age was 18. But I gambled that the interview and the offer, should it come, would happen after my birthday. So I interviewed and applied when I was 17, got the role when I was 18, and have kind of been on a really wild but very blessed journey in corporate America. So like many of us, I entered the workforce really optimistic and excited about the impact that I could have, both for my personal success, but also the value that I could bring to any number of organizations. And being kind of a hard driver, I was able to pay my way through undergrad and continue to ascend throughout corporate America, taking on bigger and bigger roles. And ultimately, and I'll skip to kind of a more current perspective, but, suffice to say that over those years, I became very, very passionate about the people. Whether I was leading a team of 5 or a team of 15,000, my approach was always and will always be the same. And that's, the greatest asset in those organizations, without question, is the people. But I also had to wrestle with some things, Dave, as I got probably around year 20 in the corporate America scene, where I started to feel a little bit apathetic. I started to become a little bit sour, disenfranchised, and bitter because I had been led in ways that really didn't bring the best out of me in many cases. Obviously I was fortunate enough to have a couple of folks along the way that were really impactful to me and had some life-changing interactions and relationships. But I told myself, and this is probably back around 2015 or so, I told myself if I was ever given the chance to lead an organization the way that I had never been led, been given, and if I was given the autonomy in kind of the reins to steer a ship in the direction I thought that would yield the best results, resonate the most with the team, all 15,000 people, I was going to take it. And that opportunity surfaced around 2016, maybe late 2016, where I took on a role leading the Affordable Care Act enrollment centers, as well as 1-800 Medicare enrollment centers. I was responsible for about a $6 billion program. I had 11 locations, 14,000 employees. And I realized when I took that role that I was facing some pretty significant cultural challenges. There was what I would describe as silo success. So of 7 or 8 different functional areas. The leaders of each of those areas were quite proud of their individual results, even if their peers were not as delivering as well. So it was kind of a, I would say it wasn't, probably would say dog eat dog is a little dramatic, but it is true that it was a lot. The focus was usually on me, and how I can deliver. And I took the role with the understanding that the leader I was replacing was a pretty me-oriented, kind of iron fist ruler. And I'd love to share a story or two about that at some point. But it was very clear to me that the opportunity was right in front of me. So when I began kind of making my first 30, 60 days throughout that organization, meeting folks, kind of trying to put my stamp on it, it occurred to me that I was facing more of an uphill climb than I expected. And about the 90-day mark, I was fortunate enough to pull the top 40 or 50 leaders of the program into a room. So the night before that meeting, I was in Lawrence, Kansas, in my hotel room, and had one of those gut check moments, a real moment of truth for me. And it was, I had a choice. Was I going to lead the way I had always been led and had, fairly good results, but it's also the way that left me a little bit salty and sour in some ways on the whole corporate America experience? Or was this the time that I was really going to walk the walk? So with laptop in hand, about midnight, the night before, I started just to kind of bang out a presentation, really just with the intention of being very direct with the team. And I knew if I walked in with an approach of I and what I could do and how great I was and my experiences and how it would really change their worlds, I'd just be received as hollow. And I think, and that proved to be true, because the path I took that evening when I was crafting my message, I landed with 10 sentences. And Dave, with no pre-planning, it was not the goal out of the gate. I had 10 sentences that started with the word we. And as I kind of went up and down that list, I realized these are guiding principles. These are rules of the road. So the next morning, blurry-eyed, I stepped in front of the crowd and said, hey, folks, let me walk you through what I think should be our guiding principles. And if they don't resonate with you the way that I think they might, that's okay. But I want you to hold me accountable. You must hold me accountable to these principles. So I got this, people took a step back, like they weren't used to a leader coming in and saying how they need to be held accountable by the team. And I said, the reason I'm so comfortable with you holding me accountable to these principles is because I want to and will hold you accountable for the same. So I walked through each of the principles. The entire presentation was in black and white, purposely to say, there's no gray. These are the principles that we're gonna subscribe to and align around. And David, it became, and this, I would be dishonest if I said I realized this at the time, but this came to be kind of an unanticipated benefit. A principle is by definition a foundational belief. It's something we hold to be true. And in any team environment, including your family and friends and loved ones, if you can align around a series of principles as foundational beliefs, you are much better positioned. We are much better positioned to take on adversity, to take on any challenge business might throw at us. So I think that was the important moment for that team to realize, A, that I was in it for them, and I was really, really concerned and focused about their growth. And I also wanted to make sure that they understood everyone was on a level playing field. You hold me accountable, I'm holding you accountable. And that was, again, probably 2017. And fast forward 6 years later, nearly 6 years later, those principles are still the cultural manifesto, if you will, for that organization. They have the WE Awards twice a year. All of their evaluations and employee appraisals are all crafted around the WEs. Are you embodying? Are you living? Are you evangelizing those principles? So it's been such a beautiful ride that I never anticipated the impact that those principles have had, not just on me, but on so many other and their personal lives as well, has been profound. So, I would end that kind of long monologue and introduction with, it wasn't all rosy. There was resistance. There were people that were skeptics. There were folks that felt like I was kind of full of it. And then it was my way to really put myself ahead. But through time, a number of years, I have proven to that group that and other groups that this leading by principle is really where it's at. But it's not for everyone, because many organizations, while they might subscribe and claim to be really focused on culture and want to drive cultural transformation when it's not as productive or healthy as it could be. I learned very quickly that it's not always what it seems to be on the surface. So I led that organization, a company called Maximus, for about 3.5 years, and had a really wonderful opportunity to go lead the back office operations for one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the world. I had a $2 billion budget, 40 plus locations. That was the role. I picked up 15,000 employees. And I was hired to lead a transformation. And some organizations, while they claim to be ready, they just aren't ready, which really emphasizes how important it is for leaders to lead with this paradigm. Because many times the C-suite, while they claim to be engaged and want to have a culture of openness, excellence, where we empower and inspire our teams, when it actually comes to doing the hard work to pull that off, sometimes it's not as easy as you would like. So I went from this incredible high with this company called Maximus, with the opportunity to take that show on the road. Had some kind of adoption, but not what I would have hoped. But I turned that into my life's mission. When I saw an organization that big with such great potential not adopt and lean into the principles, it just made me more determined to evangelize and spread this message as far and wide as I can. And that's ultimately what compelled me to write the book.
You know, as I'm listening to you, I want to call you the Thomas Jefferson of workplace culture, right? You know, because I'm thinking of the Declaration of Independence, right? We the people, we hold these truths to be self-evident, right? I mean,
Right.
There's a lot of we's in the Declaration of Independence, and you know, as you were talking, I was trying to Google Declaration of Independence and read it, but I want to pay attention. So, but I bet there's a lot of we's in the Declaration of Independence. So,
I would imagine so. Yeah.
yeah. So you could put on your next book that I called you the Thomas Jefferson of culture. All right.
I'll be the TJ reboot in my next book.
Yes. Well, and so love everything you're talking about, and I agree with you. And I agree with you too that a lot of times there's resistance. People roll their eyes. Oh, here's another guy coming here to do his thing and, you know, make a name for himself, and he's got all this BS. And I remember when I you know, my first company was a magazine. We grew it to about 20 people. And I started bringing a lot of these principles in that I learned. I was an EO, you know, entrepreneurs organization. I started reading a lot of the books that they were recommending and going to a lot of their workshops. I learned a lot of the stuff. I would bring it back, and I get a lot of rolled eyes, you know, like,
absolutely,
we're going to do a daily, you know, morning huddle to make sure we're all on the same page, and that, you know, the information is cascading and we're all connecting. A lot of eye rolls. Oh, here's Dave with another one of his, you know, ideas. But then, you know, after about a month, they're like, we love this. This is great, you know, and so a lot of things like that, right? So, so I know in the book that I believe you cover 10 we's. Is that correct?
Right.
Yep,
that's right. There are 10. Yep,
there's 10 we's, and we certainly want to read the book, and I'm gonna, you know, get it on Amazon and dig into it, and then I'm gonna meet you and have you sign it for me. But how about sharing some of those we's with us?
Yeah. So first, let me share the book was released in September, and within a number of days reached #1 bestseller status in 9 categories on Amazon.
Wow. Fantastic.
And a week later, just so humbled to share that we achieved bestseller status at the Wall Street Journal and USA Today bestseller lists.
Wow.
So there's an appetite there, but the 10 we's, I must issue a caveat every time I share the 10 we's. The caveat is this: in isolation, each of the principles are not rocket science. There is nothing groundbreaking that I'm about to walk through. The beauty of the principles, though, is when combined, we have a series or system of beliefs that are much easier to rally around and behind and align with when compared to a mission statement or a value statement. You know, I just tend to believe mission statements are words on a wall that most people can't recite, but it makes the C-suite feel really good that we've got a really sexy mission statement. But the average employee, especially in larger organizations, have no opportunity to relate to what that mission statement means to them and how they execute for those they serve on a daily basis. So it was important to me to create things, kind of this manifesto of sorts that would allow people to to relate. So not just hollow words on a wall. So, and each of the we's build upon one another. So as we walk through this, and I'll point out how without the we just prior to the one I'm on, the journey wouldn't make sense. So they start very, very simply. And again, always in black and white, because, and this is the best example of why, the first we is we do the right thing. Always. Very, very important to have that second word, that second sentence with one word, always. Because as you know, in times of kind of stress or adversity, the right thing can be a little bit subjective. So when we frame it, it always must be the case. And I'm really adamant that when deciding on the right thing, there are really three cohorts to consider, and you must address it in a way that satisfies as many of those three as possible. And it's in this order: the company, the client, and the crew being those that are on your team. Some people might say, oh, well, Kyle, that's not right. The company should never take priority over the people. Well, this just in, if the company doesn't exist, there are no people. There is no client. So when making tough decisions and trying to do the right thing, I encourage people to look through those three lenses and try to solve for all three cohorts. If you can get three, that's a home run. If you can get two, it's a little better, but than just one. But never should the right thing involve making the decision for me. I should be at the very end of the totem pole in terms of prioritizing what the right thing is. But if we're going to do the right thing, and we want people to aspire to do the right thing and be known for doing the right thing, the next we is logical in that we will lead by example. We lead by example because, as you know, you're already leading by example. You are, whether it's good or bad, that's your choice, but you are setting an example for others to follow. As a leader, do I show up late? Do I take 2-hour lunches? Do I leave early? Do I rule with an iron fist? Am I relatable? Can I be approached? You know, those are the examples that you're setting every single day, and those around you are mimicking. And tragically, if the example you set is not a good one, those that become or get promoted under your watch, what do? They perpetuate those same bad behaviors. So if we're going to do the right thing right out of the gate, we must lead by example. And the best way a leader in my mind can lead by example is when they say they're going to do something, they do it. Because if you're part of a team, make no mistake, others are counting on you. Whether it be a peer, a colleague, could be your manager, could be someone that reports to you. There is always someone counting on you. So when we say we do something in my organizations, we must do it. The only exception is if there's a hurdle or something that can't be kind of traversed before delivery of that, but we share that way in advance of a delivery date. And that goes in every direction. I do feel there's a bit of a double standard in a lot of organizations where the boss, which is not the same thing as a leader, as you know, the boss will issue a directive or ask for something. And the moment that the employee or the team member is late in delivering that, there's retribution or repercussions. But too many times the leader or the boss makes a commitment to his team or her team and they don't deliver. There's a double standard there, which creates what I call a leadership gap. And it's really hard to align and gather trust if I can't count on you, boss, to deliver something that you promised to me. But once we align around the first three, now it's time to get a little bit more kind of active. And number 4 is we take action. Taking action and making a mistake is okay, but being idle is not. I would rather my teams, my organizations, try every angle, lean into something new. And if they fail miserably, we'll pick them up. But sitting around and watching opportunities pass us is not going to make us excellent. It's not going to help our position in the marketplace. And frankly, it's boring as hell to be on a team that is not taking action to take on new initiatives, be innovative, and kind of buck the status quo. So if we say what we're going to, if we say what we're going to do, and then we do it, and then we take action, you have to expect mistakes to be made. Because if we're taking action on opportunities, by definition, it's probably something that we don't do on a daily basis and not something that we have in scope or focus on, as regularly as we could or should. So mistakes will happen, but we must own those mistakes. Mistakes are an opportunity for improvement, and we have to recognize them. I always tell the teams, I can't help you fix what I don't know is broken. So when you make a mistake in my organization, we embrace it. We throw hands up, we celebrate it, because that is how we identify improvement opportunities. But you must lead in a way that has that inviting, open, empowering culture for someone to feel confident to share a mistake. Because too many times, and I've seen it, I'm sure you've seen it in the corporate world as well, a mistake is grounds for just about the worst scenario, and that's being asked to go do something else, even if it's made in good faith, which I think creates an environment of apathy where people don't put their neck out. Why would they? What's the reward? But if we acknowledge mistakes are going to come, it's incumbent on everyone on the team to follow the following and that's we pick each other up. So when someone stumbles, when they err, maybe they're dealing with a situation outside of work that's really impacting how they deliver excellence at work. It is the leader's responsibility, and also the team's, peers, colleagues' responsibility to extend a hand. Dave, you doing all right? Your work product's down a little bit. We're not where we need to be with whatever goals we're discussing. I'm here for you. What can I do to help you? Just saying those things on a regular basis when someone's performance slides, rather than the classic boss reaction, which is, what's going on? Why are you not delivering? Why, let's go for a performance appraisal that's going to have all these negative connotations or write-ups in it. Got to pick each other up. And there's a corollary here. So we pick each other up means I'm going to pick up someone when they're down or when they've made a mistake or need a hand, but also it's my obligation as a leader to propel those folks on the team to new heights. Because if I'm going to talk about how important we are as a team and how invested I am in you, and I'm here for you when you stumble, it's only natural to make sure that I am also helping you not just get up, but move up. And that could be replacing me. That could be in opportunities outside of our team. It could be in opportunities outside of the organization. So play this through one time for a moment. I've had this happen. I've had a member of my team come and ask for me to be a reference for a role outside the organization. Shocking, right? But it's a really open environment that those kinds of conversations are encouraged. My first reaction is always to try to get them to stay within the team. Maybe they've outgrown the role and that's not appropriate for them. That'd be a shame for me to hold them back. My second goal would be to try to find them a role within the organization. But if they're adamant that the opportunity that they're pursuing outside the organization is best for them, I will do everything I can to help them get there. But the scenario that I'm recalling is I helped a fella on the team put his best foot forward for another role outside the organization. He ultimately didn't get that role. But do you know his loyalty to me and the company after that was probably tenfold before, because he knew I was invested in him. I cared less about my results, the team's results. I wanted him to do well. I wanted him to grow. So he came back, didn't get that job, was ultimately promoted because he came back with a new zest and kind of zeal for the role and for the team, because he realized I genuinely had his back at that point. But once we pick each other up, now we're coming to the last 4 weeks where it gets a little dicey and folks have a hard time embracing, especially those in bigger organizations, because it's not normal. And the next one is we judge ourselves by outcomes, not activity. And this is something I'm very passionate about. As a leader, you go to someone, you say, hey, Rob, I need this report by 5 o'clock tomorrow because I'm going to talk to Chris later in the day, and I need to be able to have this data to have that conversation. So Rob comes around. Rob doesn't deliver the report the next day, but he says, I emailed Jim, I called Sally, and I have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow. Really appreciate all that, Rob. Great activity, but we have not delivered the outcome that you and I agreed to deliver. And I think too often in corporate America, we judge ourselves or we're judged by a packed calendar, how many meetings I had, but not really focused on the outcomes. A silly example is I'm very grateful that my Uber driver has a tank full of gas when he picks me up. I'm so glad, but that's an activity. I'm not paying for that activity, which is the filter I try to get the team to see through. Is we are paid for outcomes. We're not paid for activity. And if you can't draw a straight line from activity to a prescribed or already determined outcome that we're chasing, you need to question why that activity exists. And that usually takes the form in non-value add meetings, frankly, in bigger companies especially. So outcomes versus activity, a huge paradigm that really improves the outcome and the delivery of the product or service that we sell and the quality associated with it. Number 8, my favorite, we challenge each other. In most environments, challenges are reserved for the boss to the team, not in a culture of excellence, not in a we-oriented culture. Challenges must come from all directions. Members should challenge the team. Colleagues should challenge colleagues. Peers should challenge peers. And of course, the leader needs to challenge the team and members of the team. But challenge makes people uncomfortable. So when we look at challenges in our personal lives, whether it be a divorce, a breakup, losing a loved one, those evoke feelings that don't make people comfortable. So it's only natural when we step into a workplace, which is supposed to be an unemotional kind of departure from the personal life, that resistance to challenge is carried over. But as you know, no progress can ever be found without challenge. If you want to lose weight, you got to challenge yourself to be active, eat better. If you want to learn a second language, you've got to challenge yourself to put the work in to learn that second language. The same is true in business. External forces, challenges from others inside the organization, they are all opportunities for improvement, but a challenge must be crafted in one or two domains, if you will, data and or experience. I can't come in and say, hey, Dave, I'm not feeling that plaid shirt today. That's my opinion. And that is not productive. It must be grounded in either of data or experience. But challenge without number 9, we embrace challenge, is anarchy. You just have an opportunity for people to come in and spew criticism. And as you know, criticism and process improvement, or criticism and challenge, are very, very different things. So if we're going to be really, really overt about challenging one another, we must embrace challenge. And the best way to embrace challenge is to remove the ego. Pull up, look down at yourself as if you're not even in the room. Remove the ego, remove your ownership, step out of your sandbox, because if we're aligned to these principles and the person issuing the challenge is doing it via data or experience, by definition, at that point, it's not personal. And if I want to grow and improve, I've got to embrace challenge. If I don't want to grow and improve and I want the status quo, then I'm going to look at that challenge, turn the other way, and walk away. But that's how you get lapped. That's how, from a leadership perspective, the company as well, you just get lapped, because there are companies in your same industry that are embracing challenge every single day with the goal of disrupting and replacing you. So we can't avoid challenge in anything in life. The final we've come to this point now where we are leading, we're doing the right thing, we're leading by example, we're taking action, we're really okay with mistakes, we're picking those up when a mistake is made, we're only focused on outcomes, not really pounding our chest when we have great activity, but only focused on outcomes. We're going to obsess over details. Number 10 is we obsess over details, because details matter a lot. I get 2 schools of thought in response to this one. One is, well, Kyle, it's just the details. Don't sweat the details. And then the other side of the coin, there are the people who I love, and they say, no. The details aren't the details. The details are what make the product. They're what make us up. And I firmly believe our focus and obsession with details is 100% indicative of the care and the passion that we put into those we serve, both on the team and those we serve externally, the client. Sloppy with details shows I don't care enough about a product to deliver excellence to you. But on the contrary, when I really focus and obsess over details, I create a brand reputation that is really hard to refute. So we got to obsess over details if we really want to be what I would describe and how I've coined a culture of excellence. So I just ran through each we in probably 5 or 6 minutes. That's usually an hour and a half keynote. So I tried to be brief, but that's kind of the flavor at the 40,000 foot level of what these principles are.
It's a manifesto, brother. Manifesto, the we manifesto. Yeah.
TJ.
Yeah. And I love all of them. I forgot, it was like number 4 where you talked about that the leader must embrace the we and be accountable and can't, say one thing and do another.
Right.
I think, they're all important. But that one, like, if that doesn't happen, I don't think anything else matters. There's, my grandparents are from Sicily, and there's a Sicilian phrase that I love. And it's like, it says, the fish rots from the head down. Yeah, and, right. You have a bad leader that doesn't embrace these principles. Everything else is going to go to hell, right?
The house of cards.
Yeah.
The house of cards. That's right.
Yeah. It's a house of cards. Absolutely. So, Kyle, I'm telling you, this is super, super fantastic stuff. If people want to reach out, learn more, get in touch, have a phone call, have a Zoom call with you, bring you into their organization, buy your book. What's the best way to reach out and get in touch with you?
Yeah, very simple. So the website's kylemcdowellinc.com. All of my social handles are the exact same, Kyle McDowell Inc. And I mentioned it a moment ago. I truly believe this is my purpose on this planet because I've seen the impact it's had on so many, including myself. That it's my obligation to share it as far and wide as possible. So reaching me through those channels, would love to hear and help spread this message as far and wide as those are willing to hear.
Kyle, thank you so much. And so many congratulations on your book. I can't wait to read it. We got to give kudos to my buddy Javon McCormick from Scribe Media, who helped you publish it. So one of my favorite humans in the world. He's been on my podcast twice. That's how much I love him.
Right. Okay. So the bar's been set. You got to have me back at some point.
I'm telling you, it's a high bar. I think he's one of 2 or 3 people that I've had on twice. So
great guy. He's a wonderful human.
Yeah. So very good. And everybody, Gonzo family, as always, if you want a personal connection to Kyle, throw me an email, david@davidbomano.com, and I'll give you guys a personal email. Kyle, thanks again so much. Really appreciate you sharing some heartbeats with us today and doing the great work that you're doing.
It's a pleasure. I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Absolutely. And Gonzo family, thank you for listening and or watching today. We really appreciate it. Every Wednesday morning, great new episode with great new guests, just like Kyle. And I'm wishing you all a beautiful day, and make sure to stay awesome.